Texas is 96% private land. So most people that get lost and die are on private land, and few landowners give permission to conduct searches. So anyone who's found, it's an accidental discovery. It's estimated by one sheriff that if one person is found, there's probably 5 that aren't found. And what is happening in these counties that are poor, they send the remains to a funeral home and the funeral home buries them. There's no DNA samples taken. There's no investigation. There's some counties that do, but the majority, the historic practices are not to do that. Sent to a funeral home and buried. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure out where people are buried, working with the Forensic Border Coalition, and then conducting exhumations. So I'm typically working with what we call the long-term dead, the not recently dead that have been buried and forgotten.
It's trite to say that not all of us, but most of us are migrants to this country, if not in our generation, in the generations before. When you need to make an argument to somebody else about why should we care about these migrants on the border, I know that my grandfathers came to this country as refugees. It wasn't the word yet. There was no word refugee, but they were. And they came in the 1910s. And if they'd have come in the 1920s, they wouldn't have been allowed. They would have been illegal. And we all share that background. And to try and keep that in mind in your voting, in your money, in all aspects of related to the policy and the practice of this work.
I'll add on to that and say that as much as people think this topic might be getting discussed, it needs to be discussed more. Everybody who's on this call needs to go home and tell their mom or dad or their friend and say, talk about this call, talk about this issue, because it is this disaster that's been sitting in the background for, like Dr. Anderson said, the last 20 years.
What we've seen for the last 20 or 25 years is a mass disaster written out in slow motion. And it's written out across the 4 states that are represented here. So what we've tried to do, especially with Texas, is share information. Ideally, in a mass disaster situation, you want to standardize what you're doing. You want to standardize and implement your techniques and procedures. We may be a long way off in that, but we start by sharing information.